Hello, Bill here, Pale Horse Survival and Tactical. Today we're going to make a bow drill kit out of European white birch. I've never used birch for such a purpose before, and it's kind of a medium hardwood, but we're going to go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to split the wood in such a manner that I avoid as much of this heartwood as possible. The heartwood is always the hardest part of the wood. We're going to utilize as much of the sapwood here as we can. So we get a small spindle out of here, and being a harder wood, I'm going to use a smaller diameter spindle. That gives allows for higher RPMs, and we'll go ahead and split out a hearthboard about a 1/2 inch in thickness at some point on here, and machine it down, and we'll see how it goes. Already got some thumbnail marks in here. I was messing around with it. It's not a soft wood, but it's not hard as a rock neither. And I've heard of some people using birch for primitive fire by friction purposes. So I've had some birch in my wood pile. So pulled this out, cut it to size, and we'll go ahead and give it a shot. I've already stripped the bark off this. The birch bark makes a great tinder, fire tinder. It has oils in it, and it'll even burn when it's wet. You can get a birch tar from the bark, and you make a tea out of the very small twigs and the leaves. It has salicin in it, which metabolizes in our bodies into salicylic acid, which is essentially aspirin, same as willow and aspen and cottonwood, basswood. And so let's go ahead and get started. See what we can do here. Make sure you guys are in frame. Yeah, looking good here. Go ahead and give this a try. I think we'll that's kind of an oval spot on here, so I'm going to go ahead and use this section here for the spindle. And we'll get a spindle out of this piece. Do a little bit of work on it. And we'll split this heartwood off of here, or at least a good part of it. It's the heartwood. Let's see if we can get a hearthboard out of this. always chop to get it as level as I can. Figure out which side I'm going to use for the top and the bottom. It's a little bit twisted. Some woods will twist. Got a pretty good twist to it. It's a huge twist. Yeah, we don't have a lot of thickness to work with here, so took a lot of it out of there. Somewhat. See how it sits on the ground here. Yeah, I think we'll use the, I'm going to use the narrower part for the top and use that as the base. It sits pretty good on the ground. Actually not bad at all, and it's just about a ½ inch thick, which is about what I personally use as a thickness for my hearthboards. Clean the bark off here. Wood actually doesn't feel bad at all. It's leaving a decent thumbnail mark. It'll probably make a decent bow drill wood. It'll probably work all right. And I'm only taking the bark off one side. This will be our working side here. Alright, so there's our hearthboard. It still has a nasty twist to it. It's a lot better. It's about as good as I'm going to get it without reducing the thickness down too far. Okay, let's work on the spindle here. Go ahead and baton the spindle here. We'll let the batoning do the greater part of the work. What I like to do when I'm deriving a spindle in a hearthboard from a solid piece of wood like this, in other words, not harvesting a branch, that's about the thickness that I need, which I could have done in this case and saved a lot of labor, but I wanted to demonstrate how to derive a spindle from a solid piece of wood, which sometimes you have to do if you can't, if you're in a situation where you can't find a branch of the proper thickness, or if you just have a log to work with like we started out with here. You know, there's the beginnings of a spindle. So it's all about just looking at it and figuring out where you want to split. Let's see if I can work on these corners a little bit here. I think we can probably start machining this down now. Yeah, this is just a good thing to know in case you're in a situation where you just have one piece of wood to work with. You don't have the option of finding a branch of the proper thickness. Just another good skill to have in your toolbox. You don't have to chop away at this, you can whittle it, whatever method works best for you. I just rough things down by chopping it, and I finish it off by whittling it. Just my personal preference. Birch has a nice smell to it. Go ahead and clean this guy up here. I'm going to pause the camera. I don't want to bore the heck out of you guys. Force you guys to watch me for the next, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes while I clean this up. It's coming out pretty good. Actually doesn't look too bad, it's just a little rough. I'm going to clean it up and reduce the diameter a little bit, and I'll be right back with you. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back. I finished the spindle. Got a machine down pretty good. At the end, blunted off, and I chose the top for the bearing block simply because it has a split in it. But that's okay, we can still make that work. I've used a lot of spindles with splits in them. Just put it at the top, use it as a bearing block. It usually works just fine. And it's pretty symmetrical in size. You know, remember when you machine a spindle down in this manner, you want to keep the thickness pretty uniform. In other words, you don't want to have a fat end and then a skinny end. What's going to happen is when you put the spindle in your bowstring and you start actuating the spindle with the bow, the bowstring is going to migrate to the skinny end of your spindle. So say you machine the spindle down and you leave this fat up here and this skinny down on this end, your string's going to migrate down as you begin to actuate it, and your string will be down. I mean, if it's real skinny and it tapers all the way to the end, your string's going to go all the way to the bottom, and it's going to screw up your fire making effort. So, and it doesn't have to be exact, but as long as it's fairly close, you should be good to go. So anyways, our spindle's done, and the only thing left to do is get the pilot hole started in the fireboard and burn it in and cut the notch. So I'm just going to leave the camera going here while I get the hole going, pilot hole started. And for those of you new to primitive fire making, the pilot hole is what they call the divot, is put in to keep the spindle from wandering as the initial hole is burned in. Otherwise the spindle is going to go all over the place. So I think what we're going to do here is I think we're going to go ahead and put it right here. Usually I use my folder for doing the fine whittling and the bow drill divot and everything, but I discovered I didn't bring my folder with me today, so I guess I got away half caught. But using my my old trusty beater knife here, it'll do the job. It's a little bigger than I prefer to use for the fine work, but it does get the work done. Fatigues your arm a little bit faster. I think we're good to go here. This is the divot I just stuck in. And we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and reposition the camera and get this thing burned into the notch cut, see if we can get a coal with it. And it's really feeling nice. Bypassing that hard heartwood really produced a soft hearthboard and spindle. Spindle feels really good, and it really takes a, you can see that the divot with the thumbnail. That's a really good tip to know if you're working with harder woods, even oak. If you bypass that heartwood and just use the sapwood, you're going to really be able to get a coal with just about any wood, regardless of the hardness, and make your spindle of a smaller diameter. You get higher RPMs. I've seen people using really big, real fat spindles. I mean, if it works for them, fine. Not knocking anybody's techniques or choices, but I find I have much better success with skinnier spindles. They just have a much higher RPM rate. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and reposition the camera, and I will return momentarily. Stay tuned. Okay guys, I'm back. Let's see what kind of damage we can do here. And this is just going to be the ground's really uneven here, so I had to kind of make sure you guys are in frame here. Yeah, ground's really uneven here, so it's got a lot of chuck holes and stuff, so I have to find a spot where it sits level. Really good fit in the bow. Oh yeah, it's running smooth. Real smooth. There it goes. You can hear it starting to bite now. This takes a little bit to warm up. It is definitely a harder wood. Took a little bit for it to get hot enough to start biting into the wood there. And a good habit to get into, another little tip. I mean, it's dry out here right now. It's summertime and it's terribly hot. But it's always a good idea to prevent your spindle from absorbing moisture from wet ground or dampness, is to always take the spindle, the business end, and just stick it on something. In this case, I'm using my bow, and that just keeps it up off the ground. It's just a good habit to get into. Yeah, that took a little bit for it to warm up before it started biting in. I'll have to work it a little bit, I think, to get a coal. It's definitely a little bit harder wood. Go ahead and get this divot started here. I always use a little saw, little folding saw. It locks into place, that I found at the flea market for I think I paid $1 for it. It's got nice fine little teeth. It works really good for cutting bow drill divots. I'm a big flea market hound. I love to go there and find products. I'm a big fan of military surplus. It makes, in my opinion, really good survival and bushcrafting items, especially the older stuff. It's really built well, and it's really built to last. I find these saws, I have bigger ones, and nobody seems to want the old wooden handled stuff. They all want plastic. I'm a big fan of the old school stuff. I find these for anywhere from $1 up to $2, $3. People throw them out on the ground selling stuff at the market, and they make really good bushcrafting saws. for a good cheap price. This is an oldie but goodie, and it goes right in one of my kits. Really works well. Over here, and got a good notch cut here. And what I do is I'm gonna get your notch to be clean. Whoop, there you guys are. Sorry about that. It's kind of hard working, keeping everything in frame. I just go in here and I clean the end of the notch out. The cleaner your kit is, the more efficient it's going to be. You don't want anything in here preventing your coal from the char from clumping together properly. So we're looking pretty good. And what I like to do is to channel a little more air into the coal. You can fan these bottoms out, bottom of your notch. Just use some push cuts. This one side. Always turn the piece that you're working on so it makes it a little easier to work with. Whew, it's hot out here. We've been in a terrible heat wave for a couple of weeks. I mean, it's really been hot. Can't wait for a cool down. We're very smoky here too. A lot of forest fires going on. Smoke's it's so thick right now, it's actually blocking the sun. There we go. I think we're ready to give this a shot and see how it works. I think it'll work okay. I think I'm gonna have to work it a little bit towards the end to get the char to ignite, but bypassing that heartwood makes all the difference in the world. And for those who don't know, when you cut your notch in, you can go in about halfway into your hole there. Some say go in about a third. I go about a half usually. I've never had any problems. And of course, if you have your own method of doing it, and if that works for you, more power to you. Alright. Turn this around here, make sure you guys are in frame. I'm going to have to prepare some tinder too. Actually, I have some palm tree tinder that I picked up off the ground, I think about a year ago. So for demonstration purposes, I think we're just going to utilize some of this palm tree tinder here. A little more convenient than trying to prepare the jute. Use a leaf for a welcome mat. Set that off to the side. Baton out of the way. And I think we're ready to give this a shot. When you place your place your spindle in your bowstring. Take your top, loop it in, and that way your spindle's on the outside of your string. It's just another good habit to get into. Alright, pretty excited about using birch. Start out slow, just give your kit time to heat up. Keep an eye on the notch. Don't really start cranking on it till that notch is full of char. Otherwise there's nothing there to ignite. You're just kind of wasting your time. Already got some smoke. Yeah, this is definitely a harder wood. That notch is taking a while. Usually used to working with softer wood. There it goes. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can hear it starting to bite in now. This birch is taking quite a while to heat up. So now the notch is full. Now we'll crank on it. Get it to ignite. I should have done it. Looks like we have coal. Yeah, we have coal. Yeah, it definitely took, it takes a lot longer for the spindle and the hearthboard to heat up. A lot longer than the softwoods that I'm used to working with. I would say 3 times longer at least. Looks like we burnt down, I would say, maybe halfway through the hearthboard. You guys be the judge. So there's enough hearthboard there to easily get at least one more coal out of that. Give the coal just a few to build here, and give me time to catch my breath. Yeah, we have nice coal here. Yeah, that it definitely took a lot longer for it to heat up. I'm used to softer woods that heat up really fast. This had a much longer time, but it works. That's all that counts. That's all that counts. Coal's looking good here. Come over here and we'll blow this palm tree fiber into flame. Lightly blowing on it. Very lightly on the coal. You gotta be careful doing that. You don't blow it off. Blow it off your welcome mat. And we have fire. And I still have quite a bit of, I can't even see on the screen here. There we go, a lot of glare on there. Still got a lot of fiber here. I'll just stick that back on my tinder pouch. And with a little bit of char on it, it'll be even easier to ignite next time. Try and get you guys in frame here. Humidity out here is horrible. Sorry guys, trying to get my act together here. Okay. Well, that was birch, and it worked nicely. It took a little bit longer to heat up, but birch is definitely doable for primitive fire by friction purposes. This is Bill, Pale Horse Survival and Tactical. I appreciate you guys joining me today for the video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. Please like, subscribe, and share. Definitely appreciate your viewership and support. And I will see you guys very soon on the next one. I'm going to clean up here and head into the air conditioning. You guys have an awesome evening or day or night or wherever you guys happen to be located, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.